abandoned starship rejected by all. A human mechanic made it the galaxy's strongest. Ships that failed were labeled junk, unfit to fly, dangerous, and usually scrapped. And there, floating in the forgotten sector of the Orion cluster, was one such ship, the Aegis Shadow. It was dark gray, with jagged edges that made it look like it had survived 100 battles, even though it had never flown. Its engines were misshapen, its hull warped, and strange sparks sometimes danced along its sides. Alien engineers had inspected it and declared it worthless. Galactic authorities had rejected it outright. No trader, no captain, no merchant dared touch it. "Scrap it," Captain Varen said, his scales gleaming in the dim light of the orbital scrapyard. He was a bronze-scaled alien with claws like knives and a voice that could make a lesser species shiver. "It will only cause trouble." But a human named Tomas Cade saw something others did not. He crouched near the Aegis Shadow, his hands covered in oil and scratches. His short brown hair was sticky with sweat. His eyes were sharp and bright, studying the ship like it was a living creature. He whispered to himself, "You're not dead, you're just broken. I can fix that." Tomas had always been different. While other humans had fled the outer colonies for safer lives, he had stayed behind, learning everything about machinery, engines, and starship systems. Where others saw failure, he saw potential. Where others saw danger, he saw challenge. And now, standing before the abandoned hull, he felt excitement instead of fear. Captain Varen snorted. "Humans are fragile, Tomas. Why waste your time on a piece of junk?" Tomas didn't answer. He had already made up his mind. Using every credit he had saved from years of repairing smaller ships, he bought the Aegis Shadow for almost nothing. The ship was officially worthless, rejected by all, but Tomas could see the skeleton of greatness hidden beneath the rust and broken panels. The moment the deal was done, Tomas dragged the ship to a deserted orbital station far from the main trade routes. The station was old, barely holding together, with flickering lights and loose panels that rattled in the artificial gravity. It was the perfect place to work without interference. He climbed aboard the Aegis Shadow and ran his hands along the cold, uneven hull. Sparks flew when he touched the engines, but he smiled. "You just need a little love," he said softly, "a little human ingenuity." Days turned into nights and nights turned into days. Tomas worked tirelessly. He cleaned every engine coil, replaced wiring, reinforced the hull with alloys no one else would use, and recalibrated systems that had long been abandoned. He even built a new fusion generator, small but powerful, capable of self-repair. While alien engineers had considered the ship unfixable, Tomas ignored the rules. He slept in the engine bay, curled up like a mechanic among his machines, waking only when the ship made small noises as if it was breathing. Sometimes he whispered to it, "We'll make them all eat their words." But the galaxy had ears. Words spread quickly. Alien traders mocked him, sending messages dripping with derision. "A human thinks he can repair the impossible, laughable. The ship will collapse and crush him first." Tomas ignored them. Humans had always been underestimated. That was part of the plan. He experimented in ways no one else would dare. He tested engines by overloading them and letting them cool in rapid sequences. He reshaped hull plating in zero gravity, bending it into curves that could deflect weapons fire. He rewired the navigation system to anticipate problems before they happened. The Aegis Shadow began to hum differently, as if it was waking up, stretching its bones after years of neglect. Tomas often stared at it, imagining the galaxy's reaction when the ship finally moved. He could almost hear the scoffs turning into gasps, but he did not rush. Patience was a human skill the galaxy often underestimated. While aliens relied on technology that worked only in predictable ways, humans could improvise, adapt, and think outside the rules. Tomas believed that the Aegis Shadow could become more than a starship. It could become a living testament to human ingenuity. One night, As the station rotated in the silent void, Tomas sat outside on a narrow maintenance platform, watching the stars streak by. He had finished reinforcing the hull that day, welding plates until they shimmered with strength. The engines purred, alive in a way that even surprised him. "Almost ready," he whispered. "We'll show them." A sudden vibration shook the station. Tomas instinctively ran to the hull. Sparks flew from the damaged docking clamps. He frowned. Something or someone was nearby. His heart raced, but he didn't panic. He had spent years preparing for moments like this. From the shadows, a small alien probe appeared. It had metallic legs and glowing sensors. It scanned the ship, then transmitted its findings to the alien authorities. They would come, and Tomas smiled. That was fine. Let them watch. Let them underestimate him. That was the human way. He climbed back aboard the Aegis Shadow, running his hands along the controls. The ship felt different now, almost aware. The engines pulsed in a synchronized rhythm, the shields hummed faintly, and the navigation systems adjusted automatically. Tomas laughed softly. "You're ready, almost." For the next few weeks, he worked harder than ever. He upgraded weapons systems, but in unconventional ways. He rewired the ship's sensors to anticipate attacks, created energy shields that shifted depending on the angle of incoming fire, and reinforced the engines with a combination of alien alloys and human-made composites. Every part of the ship reflected Tomas's understanding of mechanics, physics, and human creativity. When he finished a day's work, he often stood outside the hull, looking at it against the stars. Other humans might have given up after seeing the ship in its initial state, but Tomas could see the potential hidden within every dent, every spark, every broken panel. The Aegis Shadow was like a puzzle, and he was determined to solve it. Then came the first real test. A small meteor shower passed near the station. Most ships would have suffered damage, but the Aegis Shadow shifted its hull plating automatically, dispersing the impacts. The engines adjusted mid-flight to stabilize it against the sudden gravitational pull. Tomas's heart raced as he watched the ship respond perfectly. "You're alive," he whispered. The human mechanic had turned impossible into possible, and that was only the beginning. Word of the ship's minor feats reached other humans in the outer colonies. They sent messages, offering help, advice, and warnings. Tomas ignored most of them. This was his creation, his vision, and he would see it through alone. Humans were underestimated everywhere, but that gave him the advantage. While aliens relied on regulations and rules, humans thrived on creativity, intuition, and stubborn determination. By the end of the first month, the Aegis Shadow looked completely different. Its hull gleamed with reinforced plates, its engines purred like a wild animal tamed by human hands, and its systems moved in perfect harmony. It was no longer a rejected hull. It was a machine of potential, waiting for the moment to prove itself. Tomas stood before it, exhausted but smiling. "Tomorrow we take the first real step," he said softly. "Tomorrow the galaxy will see the human way." For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine the impossible. A ship rejected by all, piloted and perfected by a single human, strong enough to survive anything the galaxy could throw at it. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Aliens would still mock him. Galactic authorities would still dismiss his efforts. But humans had always thrived against impossible odds. And Tomas had no doubt, if anyone could turn failure into strength, it was a human. As the orbital station drifted silently past a dying star, Tomas climbed into the pilot's seat. The ship vibrated gently beneath him, alive and ready. For the first time in its life, the Aegis Shadow was not abandoned. It was waiting, patient, for the day it would rise above every expectation. And Tomas Cade, human mechanic, was determined to make that day come sooner than anyone thought possible. The galaxy might have rejected the ship, but Tomas never would. And that was the human edge, never giving up even when everyone else had written you off. The Aegis shadow shivered with energy. Its engines hummed, and somewhere deep inside, a voice, mechanical, organic, and almost human, seemed to whisper back, "We are ready." Tomas smiled. Tomorrow, the impossible would begin. The stars stretched endlessly outside the station, each one a distant sun, each one a reminder of how small and fragile humans appeared in the galaxy. Tomas Cade sat in the pilot's seat of the Aegis Shadow, his hands resting lightly on the controls. The ship beneath him thrummed with life. After weeks of work, every panel, every engine, every wire was perfected, or at least as perfect as a human could make it. He ran a final systems check. The engines responded instantly, energy flowing through conduits he had rewired himself. Shields hummed with potential energy, ready to flex and absorb any attack. Weapon systems, though minimal, were precise, calibrated to angles and distances no alien AI had considered. The ship was alive. Tomas had made sure of that. "All right, old friend," he whispered, tapping the control panel, "time to see what you can really do." His first test was simple: navigation. Tomas plotted a course through an asteroid belt notorious for destroying large ships. Most ships that entered came out battered if they came out at all. Tomas had calculated that his human ingenuity could exploit weaknesses the AI-driven designs ignored. As the Aegis shadow drifted toward the belt, alien engineers monitoring from a nearby trade hub sent mocking messages. "Don't try this, human. Your ship will be dust before you clear the first asteroid." Tomas ignored them. Humans were not easily frightened by threats, they adapted. That was part of what made them dangerous. The asteroid field was alive with chaos. Massive rocks floated unpredictably, some spinning rapidly, some colliding with each other, sending debris scattering. The Aegis Shadow's hull flexed as Tomas manually adjusted the shields, letting smaller rocks bounce harmlessly while guiding the larger ones around the ship. Its engines responded instinctively, powered by the custom fusion core that Tomas had designed. Where other ships would have relied on automated navigation, Tomas relied on human intuition and creativity. He found patterns in chaos, rhythms in randomness. Hours passed. Sweat dripped down his forehead and his hands ached from constant adjustments. But when the Aegis shadow emerged on the other side of the belt without a scratch, Tomas allowed himself a small smile. The ship had not only survived, it had performed better than any conventional vessel ever could. Word of the ship's survival spread. Aliens in nearby systems sent messages, first in curiosity, then in disbelief, and finally in mockery. Tomas didn't respond. Let them watch. Humans were patient. They thrived when underestimated, but survival wasn't enough. Tomas wanted to see what his creation could do under pressure. He decided to simulate combat. On an abandoned planet with no life and few satellites, he activated the ship's energy weapons. They were crude by alien standards, light cannons, particle disruptors, but Tomas had modified them to fire in unconventional patterns. The first test was simple: stationary targets made of old satellites and scrap. The Aegis shadow fired. The weapons pulsed, each shot adjusting its trajectory mid-flight, guided by sensors Tomas had programmed himself. The satellites were destroyed in precise sequences, no single shot wasted. He watched the feedback loops on his screen, noting every adjustment. The ship was learning, not through AI, but through Tomas's human-designed systems that could adapt instantly. Satisfied, he raised the stakes. He sent the ship into a simulated dogfight against drones, old combat drones left behind from forgotten wars. They attacked in formation, predicting normal evasive maneuvers, but the Aegis shadow moved unpredictably, weaving and dodging, its shields flexing dynamically. Tomas watched the drones' weapons misfire again and again. One by one, they were disabled or destroyed. "This is just the beginning," Tomas muttered, leaning back in his seat. He felt the thrill humans often felt when confronting impossible odds, the sharp edge of danger that demanded focus and courage. The Aegis Shadow responded like a partner, not just a machine. It was alive with potential, ready to face anything the galaxy could throw at it. The first real threat came sooner than expected. A small pirate fleet, drawn by rumors of a lone human mechanic testing a powerful starship, approached the orbital station. The aliens meant no negotiation. They wanted the ship, dead or alive. Tomas didn't hesitate. He engaged the engines, lifting the Aegis Shadow out of the station bay, shields flaring as the pirate's scanners locked onto him. "Let's dance," he whispered, his fingers flying over the controls. The pirates fired. Energy bolts and plasma rounds streaked toward the ship, but Tomas had anticipated them. Hull plates shifted, bending the shield's reflective surfaces to deflect most shots. The remaining energy was absorbed and redirected, causing some pirate ships' weapons to overload. The Aegis Shadow darted through the chaos like a shadow, weaving unpredictably. Alien drones tried to surround the ship. Tomas anticipated their patterns and exploited gaps they didn't know existed. Using engine bursts, he moved at angles no AI would have considered safe. The pirates faltered, confused by the ship's strange movements. Humans were not bound by rules. They improvised, and in improvisation lay strength. For the first time, the aliens realized they were dealing with something different. "It's alive," one muttered, unable to understand how a single pilot could control such a complex machine so effectively. Tomas smiled, though they could not see it. It was human ingenuity, the one advantage the galaxy constantly underestimated. The Aegis Shadow didn't just defend itself, it struck back. The particle disruptors fired, finding weak points in the pirate ships. Shields failed, engines overheated, and one by one, the attackers were forced to retreat. The victory was decisive, but Tomas didn't celebrate. Humans were never reckless. Every battle was a lesson, every fight an opportunity to improve. After the pirates fled, Tomas initiated repairs. The fusion core hummed, redirecting excess energy to damaged systems. Hull plates self-corrected, welding weak points automatically. The Aegis Shadow had endured and adapted, stronger than before. Tomas ran diagnostics, noting every adjustment the ship had made in real time. He realized the ship wasn't just a machine, it was a living testament to human adaptability. Days later, word of the encounter reached the nearest trade hubs. Aliens gossiped in disbelief. A single human defeated a pirate fleet. Impossible. Tomas ignored the chatter. To humans, this was normal. They survived, adapted, and triumphed against odds no other species could understand. But Tomas was not finished. He spent the next week experimenting with the ship's capabilities in extreme conditions. He flew through radiation storms, using the ship's shields to absorb energy and redirect it to power engines. He navigated black holes from safe distances, testing the hull's flexibility and energy systems under immense gravitational stress. Each challenge taught him more about the ship's hidden potential. One night, as he floated in zero gravity outside the ship, tightening an external hull panel, he looked back at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, full of species who dismissed humans as weak. And yet here he was, a single human mechanic, commanding a ship that could rival entire fleets. The thought made his heart race with excitement. Humans were underestimated, yes, but underestimated humans were unstoppable. Back inside, he accessed the ship's core systems. Energy flows pulsed in patterns he had never programmed, adapting on their own to environmental conditions. The fusion generator hummed with life, almost as if it understood the gravity of its existence. Tomas laughed softly. "You've come alive faster than I thought," he said. "But we're just getting started." The Aegis Shadow had become more than a repaired hull. It was a weapon, a fortress, a testament to human skill and ingenuity. Tomas had turned every failure into a lesson, every weakness into a strength. The galaxy's rules no longer applied to them. Aliens had rejected the ship, but humans had reclaimed it and made it stronger than anyone dared imagine. As he prepared to land on a nearby moon for supplies, sensors detected movement, another fleet, larger this time, monitoring the station. Tomas's eyes narrowed. These were no pirates. They were scouts from a dominant galactic power, curious, cautious, and arrogant in their certainty that one human could never be a threat. Tomas didn't panic. He knew the human advantage. While their enemies relied on calculations, predictions, and rigid logic, he had creativity, intuition, and flexibility. He would show them why humans were dangerous when underestimated. He adjusted the ship's trajectory, engines glowing bright, shields flexing. "Let's give them a show they won't forget," he said. The Aegis shadow moved like a shadow in the void, swift, unpredictable, alive. Tomas felt the thrill of battle coursing through him, not just survival but mastery. Every challenge was a chance to prove that humans, no matter how small or underestimated, could rise above. For the first time, the abandoned, rejected ship was no longer just a project. It was a weapon, a symbol, and a living proof that humans could turn failure into triumph. And Tomas Cade, human mechanic, was ready to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. The stars waited silently. The galaxy had yet to see the fire of human ingenuity unleashed. And Tomas knew, deep in his heart, that once it did, nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy had noticed. Rumors of a human mechanic and his improbable starship spread across sectors like wildfire. Aliens whispered of the Aegis shadow, a ship that had survived impossible trials, outmaneuvered pirates, and resisted the elements that would destroy any conventional vessel. Most dismissed the stories as exaggeration, a tall tale whispered by traders and thrill-seekers. But some, particularly the military forces of the Kraton Dominion, did not laugh. The Kraton Dominion was a powerful empire, known for overwhelming fleets, advanced technology, and a complete disdain for species they considered weaker. And now a single human and his improvised starship had caught their attention. From the bridge of the Dominion's flagship, Admiral Croth, a massive alien with jagged carapace plating, glared at the reports. "One human," he growled. "Against our fleet, this is a joke." "It is not, my lord," replied Lieutenant Varl. "Sensors confirm a single vessel, approximately 150 meters long, capable of dodging our patrol drones and destroying multiple pirate vessels unaided. Our intelligence suggests the pilot is human." Croth's eyes narrowed. "Humans are weak. Their fleets are insignificant, yet somehow this one survives. Prepare the fleet. We will see what this human is truly worth." Meanwhile, Tomas Cade was unaware of the Dominion's attention. He was on a remote moon, performing maintenance on the Aegis shadow. The ship had sustained minor damage in recent skirmishes, nothing serious, but Tomas worked tirelessly, adjusting engine conduits, recalibrating shields, and testing weapon systems. Every repair and enhancement was guided by a human's intuition and stubborn creativity, not algorithms. He looked at the stars, thinking about the battles to come. "They think they can stop us with numbers and rules," he muttered. "They don't know humans." The first contact came without warning. Sensors picked up a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace near the moon. Hundreds of Dominion ships, armed with weapons capable of vaporizing planets, moved in formation. Tomas felt a rush of adrenaline but no fear. Humans thrived on impossible odds. He ran through the options. Retreat was impossible, the fleet would cut him off. Diplomacy was pointless. The Dominion viewed humans as inferior. The only choice was to fight, and to fight smart. The Aegis shadow lifted off, engines blazing, shields flaring in response to incoming scans. The Dominion fleet targeted the ship immediately. Energy beams lashed out, but Tomas had anticipated predictable firing patterns. Hull plates shifted, energy deflected, and shields absorbed the impact with minimal strain. "Time to test you," Tomas said softly, activating weapon systems. The particle disruptors, modified by human ingenuity, fired in sequences that defied standard targeting logic. The beams curved, adjusting mid-flight to avoid countermeasures, striking enemy ships at weak points the Dominion engineers had never imagined. The fleet faltered. Drones collided with one another as they tried to predict the ship's erratic movements. Larger ships miscalculated their attacks, their AI unable to process the human improvisation. Tomas maneuvered the Aegis Shadow with precision, weaving through fire, using momentum, and exploiting angles that no machine could calculate. The Dominion admiral roared in frustration. "It moves like it knows our moves before we do. How is this possible?" "It's human ingenuity, Admiral," Varl said quietly. This is something no algorithm can replicate." Tomas didn't stop. He used unconventional tactics, sudden engine bursts to ricochet between asteroids, shield redirection to overload enemy weapons, and controlled breaches of his own hull panels to force energy redistributions that destabilized Dominion ships. Each move combined risk with strategy, a human hallmark. Where the Dominion relied on brute force, Tomas relied on intelligence, adaptability, and instinct. Hours passed, though to Tomas it felt like minutes. The fleet, though vast, was gradually breaking apart. Ships were disabled, forced to retreat, or destroyed. The Aegis Shadow emerged almost unscathed, its hull humming with adaptive energy flows from Tomas's enhancements. But the Dominion would not yield so easily. Admiral Croft deployed the fleet's secret weapon, the gravitas cannon, capable of warping space itself and tearing ships apart. The cannon's beam sliced through the void toward Tomas's location. He saw it on sensors and knew he had to act instantly. He accelerated the Aegis Shadow, engaging engines beyond normal limits. The hull trembled under the strain, shields flaring violently. Tomas executed a maneuver no human pilot had attempted before. He angled the ship toward the beam, letting the gravitas energy partially enter the ship while using the modified hull to redirect excess energy into the engines. The ship lunged forward, weaving unpredictably, and the gravitas beam overshot. Tomas exhaled sharply. "Not today," he said. The human edge, unpredictability under pressure, had saved them. He used the opening to strike back. Engines flared as the Aegis Shadow darted between the Dominion ships, firing disruptor beams that struck critical engines and weapon systems. One by one, cruisers slowed, capital ships faltered, and the fleet's coordination collapsed. From the Dominion flagship, Croft watched in disbelief. "A single human has defeated our fleet," he growled. "Impossible." Tomas had no time to gloat. Sensors detected an approaching squadron, faster and more agile than any he had faced. He realized the Dominion was learning, adapting to his human tactics. They would not stop until the ship was destroyed. He had to escalate. He tapped into the fusion core, pushing it to levels he had only tested once before. Energy rippled through the ship systems, shields glowing, engines flaring, weapons pulsing with intensified power. He used the Aegis Shadow's adaptive systems to anticipate attacks before they arrived, making movements that even alien AI could not predict. The squadron attacked in unison, surrounding the ship. Tomas smiled. Humans thrived when trapped. "Let us show them what human creativity can do," he said. He executed a maneuver he had designed himself. The ship rotated rapidly, bending shields and hull plates to create mirrored surfaces. Incoming energy bolts were reflected back, striking the squadron's ships, damaging their engines and navigation systems. In seconds, the human-controlled vessel had turned a near-impossible situation into an advantage. The Dominion forces tried to regroup, but Tomas's improvisation, and the Aegis Shadow's adaptability left them vulnerable. Capital ships suffered catastrophic system failures and the fleet began a full retreat. Tomas did not chase. He let them flee, sending a message instead. Humans were not to be underestimated. After the battle, Tomas surveyed the ship. Minimal damage, systems functioning perfectly. He allowed himself a small moment of pride. The Aegis Shadow had survived a fleet, adapted in real time, and emerged victorious. But he also knew the galaxy would not forget this encounter. The Dominion would return with greater force, better tactics, and a determination to destroy what they could not understand. And he had to be ready. He spent the next days reinforcing the ship further, making modifications based on the battle's lessons. He improved the shields, strengthened the hull, and upgraded weapon systems. The fusion core was pushed to a new limit, capable of sustained output far beyond standard human or alien designs. Each enhancement was guided by human intuition, experience, creativity, and daring that no AI or alien strategy could replicate. Tomas realized something important. The Aegis Shadow was not just a ship. It was a living testament to human resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity. Aliens had rejected it, the galaxy had laughed at it, and yet here it stood, ready to face any challenge. As he looked out at the stars, Tomas whispered, "They'll remember us now, not just me, humans." The Aegis Shadow vibrated beneath him, almost as if responding. It had been abandoned, rejected, written off as worthless. But Tomas, a single human mechanic, had turned it into something stronger than any alien fleet could predict. Humans had taken the impossible and made it inevitable. For the first time, Tomas allowed himself a thought he rarely entertained. Perhaps the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. He was ready. The human edge was real, and it was unstoppable. The galaxy had not yet fully realized the magnitude of what had happened. Rumors of the Aegis Shadow, the once abandoned, rejected ship, spread like wildfire across sectors. Pirates, traders, and even small governments whispered its name with awe. Aliens, once confident in their superiority, now regarded humans with new caution. And Tomas Cade, the human mechanic who had brought it to life, knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion, humiliated by the previous encounter, had spent weeks mobilizing. They had analyzed every scrap of data on the Aegis Shadow, developing new weapons, new strategies, and deploying faster fleets. Their plan was clear: destroy the human before he could challenge their authority again. Tomas watched the star charts from the orbital command station he had established. He had reinforced the Aegis Shadow even further after the last battle. Shields now flexed dynamically, energy could be redirected to engines or weapons instantly, and the fusion core had enough power to sustain prolonged combat beyond any alien expectation. He tapped the console, running simulations. Each scenario was brutal, designed to push the limits of human ingenuity. And then the alerts came. The Dominion fleet had jumped into the sector. Hundreds of ships, organized in perfect formations, weapons bristling. Tomas did not flinch. Humans thrived under impossible odds. Fear was a luxury they could not afford, but calculation, creativity, and courage, those were their weapons. The Aegis Shadow launched, engines glowing bright against the void. The Dominion fleet opened fire immediately, energy beams tearing through the dark space, but Tomas had anticipated this. Hull plates shifted, shields bent the attacks, and his custom systems recalibrated in milliseconds. He maneuvered unpredictably, weaving through the initial salvo. "Let's see how far your rules can take you," he muttered. The Dominion fleet was precise, relying on overwhelming numbers and calculations, but the Aegis Shadow was not conventional. Every maneuver Tomas made combined instinct, intuition, and creativity, a human edge no machine could replicate. He dodged, ducked, and counterattacked, using the ship's modified particle disruptors to target weak points in alien shields. Ships that should have been invulnerable faltered. Admiral Croth, watching from his flagship, growled in disbelief. It moves like it knows what we will do before we do it. Impossible. It's human instinct, my lord, Lieutenant Varl said. No algorithm could anticipate this. This is something we cannot calculate. The battle escalated quickly. Tomas used the environment to his advantage, drawing the fleet toward an asteroid cluster and exploiting gravitational pulls. Using engine bursts and shield redirection, he turned every rock into a trap. Dominion ships collided or misfired, their confidence crumbling under the pressure. Even when trapped by flanking maneuvers, Tomas had solutions. He rotated the Aegis Shadow, bending shields to reflect energy beams back at attackers, simultaneously overloading their sensors. Energy pulsed through the ship's core as the fusion generator handled multiple demands at once, an extension of Tomas's will. The Aegis Shadow was not merely a vessel, it was a partner, alive with the ingenuity of a human mind guiding it. Hours into the engagement, the Dominion fleet began to falter. Their formations broke apart under continuous disruption. Tomas did not give them an inch. He exploited every weakness, targeting engines, communication arrays, and weapon systems. Ships were forced to retreat or face destruction. But Tomas knew that surviving was not enough. The Dominion would not leave their pride behind. He needed a decisive move. He activated the ship's full combat protocol, designed after months of trial and error. Hull plates shifted dynamically. Energy was redistributed to weapons, shields, and engines in an instant, and the fusion core pulsed at maximum output. Every attack, every maneuver was unpredictable, calculated not by AI, but by human creativity. The Dominion flagship attempted a direct assault, leading a squadron straight at the Aegis Shadow. Tomas waited, watching their movements like a chess master predicting multiple moves ahead. At the last moment, he executed a maneuver the Dominion had never anticipated. He angled the ship into the squadron, using reflected energy beams and hull deflections to create a chain reaction. Ships collided, weapons overloaded, and the flagship's engines flared. In a final burst, Tomas directed the ship's full energy output toward the Dominion command vessel. The energy surge tore through shields, disabling weapons and engines. The flagship drifted helpless, a silent testament to human strategy and courage. The remaining Dominion ships, seeing their leaders defeated, chose retreat. The Aegis Shadow pursued briefly, ensuring no immediate counterattack, then withdrew to orbit around a nearby moon. Tomas allowed himself a breath, heart racing but steady. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed once again. But the true victory was not just in defeating the Dominion fleet. The galaxy had witnessed it. Humans were no longer fragile, weak, or irrelevant. One human had turned rejection into dominance, failure into strength, and improvisation into strategy that no alien fleet could predict. Tomas spent the next days reinforcing the Aegis Shadow, preparing for future threats. He integrated lessons from the battle, enhancing energy flow, weapon systems, and adaptive shields. Every improvement reflected human ingenuity, creativity, intuition, and adaptability, combined into a machine capable of feats previously thought impossible. Word spread rapidly. Humans across sectors hailed Tomas as a hero, a symbol of what they could achieve. Aliens began to rethink their assumptions about humans, cautious now, aware that underestimating them could lead to disaster. The Aegis Shadow, once abandoned and rejected, had become the galaxy's strongest ship, not just because of its design, but because of the human mind guiding it. Tomas did not seek glory. He knew the value of his work lay not in fame, but in proving a simple truth. Humans were resilient, inventive, and unstoppable when faced with the impossible. He returned to the orbital station, docking the Aegis Shadow. Its hull gleamed undamaged, engines quietly humming. He walked along the deck, inspecting every system. It had survived fleet assaults, asteroid fields, and extreme conditions. It had adapted, learned, and thrived. He paused, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, full of species that once laughed at humans. But now they would think twice. Humans had claimed their place not through numbers or size, but through creativity, courage, and perseverance. The traits no algorithm, no machine, and no alien hierarchy could fully replicate. Somewhere in the engine bay, the fusion core pulsed steadily, a silent heartbeat echoing Tomas's own determination. The ship, abandoned and dismissed, had become a legend. Tomas smiled. "We did it," he whispered. "The galaxy knows now. Humans are unstoppable." He knew challenges would come again. Other fleets would test them, new enemies would emerge, and the galaxy's politics would shift. But for now, humanity had won. One human, one mechanic, had taken a broken, rejected ship and turned it into a vessel stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. And as Tomas looked at the stars, he realized the truth humans had always known. Survival was not enough. Humans thrived because they adapted, because they created, because they refused to be bound by rules others accepted without question. The Aegis shadow shimmered under the distant starlight, alive and ready, a symbol of everything humans could achieve. And Tomas Cade, human mechanic, had done more than repair a ship. He had reshaped the galaxy's perception of an entire species. The abandoned, rejected Starship had become the strongest in the galaxy. And its human creator had proven the unthinkable, that the human mind, the human spirit, and human courage were forces no one could dismiss. The galaxy had a new respect for humans now. It had learned a lesson Tomas had always known: underestimate a human at your own peril. The stars stretched endlessly before him, and Tomas knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity's journey had just begun, and with the Aegis shadow, the galaxy would never forget what humans were capable of. The human edge had triumphed. The rejected Starship, once worthless, was now the galaxy's strongest. And its creator, a simple mechanic with grease-stained hands and a relentless mind, had become a legend. Human ingenuity had won. The galaxy would never be the same again.